Hello, hello. Thank you. Did everyone get food? If you did not get food, it is here. And if you do so while we're doing this presentation, we will call out everything on your plate and make sure you finish it all. This is going to be more like a discussion rather than a presentation. And we will do some networking because that's the point of all this. All right, we got Ed Lelo here from the Village of Orland Park, always by my side, just like the village. Okay, so we'll start off with how many business owners are out there in the crowd here? How many people own a business? Okay. For those of you that don't own a business, how many of you go to a physical location for your businesses? Almost everyone. Anyone just solely work from home? 100% of the time. Nobody. Okay, good. So this is relevant. So we're going to be talking about real estate and locations for your business. Okay, so, and you can, if you have any questions as I'm going along, you can feel free to raise your hand and ask. Again, this is interactive. So, we're talking about business. So you have a business, you have an idea, and you want to see what it takes to come to fruition. So obviously you start with some kind of a business plan. Once you get your business plan together, or some sort of plan, you try and figure out where it's going to be most successful. And there are a lot of things that go into what makes a physical location of a business successful. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about all the legal parts of starting your business, but we're just going to talk about the location aspect. So you have a business and you need to decide, and this is one of the hardest parts of owning a business or starting a business. And this is not just for small business owners or people that open up one location. This is the hardest thing for many businesses, the large corporations, all of those. Finding the right location is imperative sometimes to the success of your business, and you need to make sure that it's in an area that is synergistic to what you are trying to accomplish. Now, there are different sectors too, so we're not only talking about stores and restaurants. I know that's always the hot topic, retail and restaurants, especially in Orland Park, especially up and down LaGrange Road. But you might be a consultant and need an office space, and that can be sometimes just as hard to find a location that's easy for your clients to get to as well. So we'll talk about some of that too. But so once you have your idea, once you have your business plan, once you have kind of an idea of what your target customer is, you want to seek out a location. So of course, you decide that beautiful Orland Park would be the perfect community to have your first business in. So once that happens, you kind of do some work on your own. Usually the initial step is you're driving around, you're figuring out if you own a restaurant. Do you want to be clustered with other restaurants? Do you want to be where there's foot traffic? Do you have a business that needs a drive-through? So coming out of the pandemic, that's been one of the most popular things for a lot of food purveyors. They want drive-throughs, and Ed can attest to that. And if you want to drive through in Orland Park, it's always a special use. So you decide that you pick a location for your business. You decide that whether it's retail, you want to be in a retail corridor that has foot traffic, that has those kind of things. So you kind of decide on a town, you kind of decide on, a general trade area, if you want to be near a downtown, if you want to be in the shopping district, if you want to be in a central business district. And then really what you want to do is contact a broker or an expert. So a lot of times you see on park benches and billboards and real estate brokers, a lot of them are geared towards residential, but there are commercial real estate brokers out there that will help you. Now, you have to be a little bit prepared before you go to a broker. You have to have your business plan, your idea, and most importantly, a budget. Whenever you're looking for a business, it's just like renting an apartment or buying a house. You're going to have to get approved. And some landlords have different approval conditions than others. You have to have credit, you have to have some background, you have to be able to pay a security deposit, all those kind of things. And that your broker can help you with. We do that at Edwards Realty. There's a lot of others that do that in town, but we could always refer you if you need to. But once you're working with a broker, then you kind of hone in on, hey, here are the certain areas that I think we can be successful at. Now, once that happens, several things have to happen in parallel. One, you engage with the landlord or property manager on the specific space. You go look at a space, just like you would a house. You start, you kick the tires, you see what's there, you see what kind of work has to be done. A space is never in the condition that you want it to be, okay? So you have to have a little bit of an imagination, and I think that's the thing that really, is lacking now, where people think that you want to walk into something that's like turnkey and ready to go. You're going to have a little bit of imagination in what it could be, and a lot of times it doesn't take a ton of money to do that. It just takes a little bit it's mostly cosmetic and decor. So even before you're getting to find that space, you need to figure out, when you're doing your business and your idea, like, what is my brand? What am I going to portray to the outside world? How do they want to view me? And that has everything to do with where your location is, what the aesthetic is, what the signs look like, how you're marketing. All of those things go together. So that's why it's so hard to find a location, because it really becomes you and your brand. Now, once you're viewing a space, you're inside the space, maybe you decide that I think this is right for me. Well, as you simultaneously start negotiations with the landlord or property manager, you also need to check with the municipality to see what kind of requirements you may need. This happens all the time in our business, where someone comes in and says, this space is perfect, let's sign a lease, I'm ready to go. And then, in the back of their mind, they're like, I'm gonna add a second bathroom, I need to change the lighting, I wanna, run electricity over here, do a bunch of different things that needs a permit. And a lot of times you're gonna need an architect, you're gonna need a drawing, you're gonna need a contractor, and these things take time. Anytime you have to do work on a space in Orland Park, and Ed will speak a little bit more to this, we have to plan on about 30 days for them to review a drawing, and then once those reviews come back, it might be another 30 days or so to make corrections, and you may not start working on your space for 60 days after you submit drawings, and time is money. So we want people to be in the space as soon as possible as landlords. The tenants or businesses want to be in the space as soon as possible, but there's a lot of shit that has to happen in the middle to make that work.
The village wants you in there as soon as possible.
Now your turn, Ed. No, I'm just kidding. The village wants it as soon as possible. That is true. So everyone has the same goal, but why is it so damn hard to get there? Well, because there's a lot of things that are working against us, especially small business owners. So one of them, it's not easy to negotiate with a landlord, and it depends on what type of landlord. If you're more with an institutional type of landlord, these are large publicly traded companies. There's not a lot of leeway, right? The rent is what it is, the credit is what it is, and sometimes they'll only deal with national tenants or regional tenants, or you'll have to put a ton of money in security deposit or letters of credit. The regional to smaller landlords might be more amenable to dealing with local businesses or entrepreneurs, but that also presents its own set of challenges. So once you pick the location, you think you're ready to sign a lease, you think you have your branding, you got your team together, you're ready for the operations, you walk into the Village of Orland Park and you talk to Ed Lelo and he tells you,
first of all, thank you for deciding to invest and open your business in Orland Park, and I appreciate the Chamber of Commerce for allowing me to come here today to make this speech. And BJ's Brewhouse made one of the investments. They had a difficult road because of the challenges in their development, but they're here, they're making money. Can you hear me now, Ed? Yes? Is it better? Feel free to yell if you can. Sorry. Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you for speaking up, too. So anyways, Ramzi, that's a lot of good information. So the first thing that you're gonna do is you found the location that you think your business will operate the best at. It has the highest traffic, the complementary uses, whatever you think is gonna make you successful, has the best lease rate. But what you need to do first, before you sign any lease, is you need to, is it better? You guys hear? So,
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
So what you need to do is make sure that the zoning fits and it's appropriate, that you can use the building for what you're trying to do. And generally, there are some nuances to it. One of the specifics that Ramzi brought up is a restaurant that has a drive-through facility. If it's a restaurant and it's standalone, it doesn't have a drive-through, it may just be permitted, which you would do all the steps that Ramzi described. If it needs a drive-through or some other special approval, you may have to go through a zoning entitlement process before you even think about doing a building permit. So it's important not to get locked into a space before you come talk to the village. We will explain what that process is, and if you haven't committed any money to the space or you're not locked into a lease, it's an easier conversation. So what I have here is, I'm reading off my notes, but I'm gonna circulate this to all the members, and it has live links to our land development code that tells the zoning regulations. Also, anything I talk about where you can submit online or look online, there's a link to that. So it should be an active document that everyone can use. One of the things to keep in mind too, if you're uncertain of the zoning and you want to make an investment in a particular property, the village will do zoning verification only for a $100 permit, where you don't have to submit any different plans, you don't have to commit any money, you don't have to show that you control the property. A lot of companies do this to understand if a property is in compliance, if they're going to do a refinancing, or they're going to get a mortgage on a property. So the village does this all the time. That way you have written zoning verification that you can use the property for exactly how you want to, and that way, once you sign the lease, you'll actually be able to start your business. So there's a couple different things that you would be going for. They would either be commercial construction, so if you're doing any kind of remodeling, the village is there to tell you whether or not a permit is required, and you will go through a full building permit process. If you think you're just going to paint and do some cosmetics, then you would do what's called commercial occupancy only, sometimes referred to as no work. You still need to get an occupancy permit if you're not doing work. That checks life safety items, emergency lights, smoke detectors, all those different things. And then if you're a professional service, if you're exempt from business licensing, if you are a lawyer or you're a doctor, they don't need to obtain or pay, they don't need to pay for a business license per the state law, because they're already licensed by the Illinois Department of Professional Regulation. But they still need occupancy on the space, and we still give them a no-charge business license for tracking. So a lot of times there's confusion there, but it's an easy process. So the next step is everything's online. So what you do is all of our permit applications, the main ones I mentioned is what you're going to be looking for, but if there's specific things that you have to do HVAC or you're doing electrical, the permits page has every single permit application, all the requirements, and links to all of them on our website. That is here. So we will help you, I will help you navigate this. You can do that on your own time. However, you can set up a time to do it. It's easier than, it's daunting when you pull up the page. It's easier if you know what you're looking for. So please reach out and I will help with that. In general, it will give you the submittal requirements. You fill out all of those. Most of them are fillable PDFs. How do I look? Most of them are fillable PDFs. But what you do is you compile all that information, and we have a permit portal. So it's an online on the same permits page. You click that link and you fill out the general information, and then you attach with the Dropbox link your actual plans for construction or documents, whatever you have supplementary. What happens there is it doesn't go into an abyss. It goes to our front office staff, and what they do is they verify that the submittal is complete before they accept it. The reason that we do that is you don't know what you have to do unless it's all there, right? So we don't want to piecemeal things, we don't want to lose documents, we don't want to confuse the situation. If you submit something and you're missing one document, unfortunately they're going to send you an email, tell you what you're missing, you have to resubmit everything else. We don't have the capacity or the amount of people to store those files and hold them while they piece things, because some of these projects never come to fruition. So that's what's going to happen. I get a lot of phone calls, hey, it was denied, I did everything you told me. Well, you might have forgot to sign the third page or something along those lines.
You got to do the drawing.
Do the drawing from a qualified architect, please, or design professional.
Walls and draw it.
Yes, absolutely.
They will send it back.
So you submit through the portal, it is verified by our front office staff. If they accept it, you will be notified and it will be assigned to our building official. The building official assigns the trades and the inspectors that will do the review, and then they will contact you if they need any more information. And what Ramzi gave a pretty good estimate of the timing. That's essentially what we're trying to meet. Yes, sir. It's my turn. Go ahead.
So my question is, beforehand, you did not need a qualified architect with some drawings. The village years ago accepted like, hey, here's a space plan and here's a hand drawing of like, I'm gonna put a wall here, I'm gonna do something like that. Is that not allowed anymore? You do need to hire an architect in order to submit drawings for anything, right?
That's a great question, Ramsey. So here's the deal. The best thing you can do is hire an architect because they will get the information correct. They will do it in the format. Mr. Goes agrees. But
Who are the architects in the room?
I just drew it.
so here's the thing. I hear in the front row that someone just drew theirs and they got a permit. You say, Ed, how did that happen? And I'll tell you. Well, the truth is we need enough information to review. So if you are a contractor, you're not an architect, and you're doing some kind of job that maybe it's more specific to a residential job, and you can draw it, dimension, it's to scale, and our reviewers can review it, then yes, we will accept that. But if everyone tries to do that, you'd be very surprised at the quality of drawings that I get. And from a commercial aspect, and that's not against anybody, it's just I can't draw and I wouldn't even try, some people do. But from a commercial aspect, it's much different. You should have a design professional. You will end up spending more money trying to do it yourself than just getting the architect in the first place. So, that's that.
Okay.
So after it's assigned, you'll be contacted, it'll be a review. You'll also, in the meantime, you will contact Vicki Dean. I have her cards here up front if you have any questions for her. She handles all commercial permitting and business licensing. Super duper. Sarah thinks she's fantastic. She is. She's been with the village for a very long time. She's seen the ebbs and flows, and she's handled commercial permits the entire time. So please don't blame Vicki if your permit is not issued on time. There is a different explanation. It is not her fault, but she will help you, and she helps you, and she might help you more if you're nice. I don't know. That could. But regardless, we will provide the same information. A lot of times we can't give you an update because building permits are not something that stop and end. They are on a continuous cycle for the entire time I've been here, and they will continue that way into the future. So there is not a backlog, there's not a stop and go, there's not, hey, it's always happening. So when you ask for an update, if the timing is a month to get it back to you, it might take a couple weeks for it to get into the queue. We try to review everything as it comes in so no one is favored, and that's the way we issue things fairly, or as fair as we can.
How many permits are issued a month or a year?
We issue about 3,500 to 4,000 permits, and just contrary to popular belief, our busiest years were during COVID. So because there was not a lot to do but improve your home, we saw an explosion of pool permits and basement remodels and bathroom remodels. The honeydew permit list was what happened in 2020. But to be honest with you, that's what I want to tell you guys. We have no interest, we have no interest. I don't use a mic all the time. So we have no interest in making your permits take longer. We want you to get to work as soon as possible. If you think about it from a commercial aspect, the sooner you guys get open and start providing services to the village benefits. There is no reason for us to hold it up. There's no, the building inspector from the movies that's just got his red pen out. We want these things out. It's a huge town. We have 12 million square feet of commercial space, including a regional mall that's still alive. Clap. Everyone clap. It is 100% occupied besides the Sears space, so just in case you're wondering. And we are the top 5 retail market outside of Chicago. So clap for Orland, please. Yeah.
Repeat the question.
So the question is, are all the permits being reviewed in-house or are some being reviewed out-of-house? So there was a time period where we were splitting some of the commercial reviews and we were using a company called Safe Build to supplement our internal services. We've actually hired full-time staff, and now the only things that are being outsourced are fire plan reviews, or alarms and sprinklers, because we don't have that expertise or license on our staff. We do have a relationship with that consulting company, so if there's a need and we need to expedite something or somebody goes off sick or whatever, we have the opportunity to do that. So it's there, but it's not the normal process. We're trying to get it back to internal. I believe the customer service aspect is better, and I think that'll be helpful for everyone. Yes, sir. You.
Oh.
Sorry.
I guess I'm sorry. Is there any? Do you know any future businesses coming to Orland Park?
Actually, we have a Portillo's that drive-through only that's coming to 20 Orland Square Drive, which is the former Denny's space. We have a Seasons 52 restaurant that just got their building permits. It's coming to the former Chewy's. And petition today, so I get to say it officially, Fogo de Chao is coming to TGI Fridays. So, so for people that may or may not be aware, and Ramzi I'm sure is, those tenants, Seasons and Fogo de Chao, are higher level restaurant tenants that we've been looking to attract to our market. I think they're going to be a great complement, and they're also going to add some activities, some centers that haven't seen. I mean, they're busy right now, but that's only going to help. Yeah, very excited. And we have Edwards Realty working on a small project at 143rd and LaGrange Road. We're working our way through the plan review. It's a small project, few acres, no big deal. But very excited about that. Ramzi has gotten further than any developer has in the history of time. So we are, and that is honest. So we are working our way through this, and very positive. We're hoping that he can get the tenants, and we can, help him through the process as a public-private partnership.
Let me speak to that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what Mr. Ed Lelo was referring to is what we're calling downtown Orland Park. And that is 143rd and LaGrange, the train station, which we are named the developer. We're in contract with the Village of Orland Park to complement our Orland Park crossing across the street. And I talked a little bit earlier we talked about retail and kind of finding spaces and restaurants a little bit, but I want to talk about the office sector. And the office use has been something that Mayor Pekow has really championed. So to have a downtown, you need to have a mix of uses. So we can't just have all shopping, we can't just have all residential. And as we know, the office market is kind of soft. Nobody's really building new office buildings these days. Contrary, office buildings are now being repurposed for other things, like residential, actually that's it, or just sitting dormant. Entertainment uses, those kind of things. But the village made a concerted effort, and so did we. So there's going to be a stepping stone between working from home and then opening up your own office space. Because just like opening up a retail space or a store, renting office space can be daunting as well. I mean, if we think about in the office sector how much change there is, if you sign a 5 or 10-year lease in your business, and you might be a consulting company or financial management, or even a real estate company. Think about all the changes that happen and all your needs that change in those 5 years. So what we are now doing, and this is going to be in the downtown, and this hasn't even been announced yet. This is groundbreaking. This is breaking news.
Nice.
All right, this is breaking news. So we are going to open up a co-working space. We're going to have 20,000 square feet in downtown Orland on the second floor, and it's going to be co-working. It's called Spaces. It's a division of IWG, International Work Group. They have a concept in town right now called Regis, and that's where you can rent executive suites almost monthly, as you need it. But what we're doing is it's going to be everything from renting an executive suite to renting a couch to sit on with your laptop. And it's almost like a membership. You're not actually renting a couch. It's a membership that you have access to. Everything from just utilizing the space and the services and having meetings to having executive office space, using conference rooms, things like that. So there's nothing like that now, and it's going to be called Spaces. We are behind it. We are putting it in downtown Orland. We're signing the contract this week. Everything has been already negotiated. So what that means is, if you are in that bubble, which I think a lot of people are, of working from home to actually renting an office space for multiple years, you don't have to do that. You can now become a member of Spaces, and you can have flexible office space. So as your company grows, and this is what should happen, it's almost like an incubator. As your company grows, you might start as 1, and maybe now you're at 3 or 4 or 5, and then you're kind of settling into, hey, I'm an 8-person office, I need 2 conference rooms, I need 3 private offices, I need 6 desks and 1 reception area. Now you know what you can rent. So this is meant to be, and it's going to be a stepping stone for those businesses. Or it's also another avenue for the people that work from home part-time. Maybe you have an office downtown, and instead of working from home with like 8 screaming kids and 2 dogs and a wife and all of those things, you can now go somewhere that's in town relatively inexpensively. So I think this is going to be a great addition to Orland Park. I think it's a great addition for the area. And as you know, Orland Park is a regional hub. So when we talk about businesses coming to town and all those things, they're not just here for the 60,000 people in Orland Park. They're really here for all of the surrounding suburbs that feed into Orland Park. Now we have a thriving mall, we have thriving retail, our office space and our daytime population, and all these things work together. The reason some of these really nice white tablecloth restaurants and that everyone wants can't come into town is because we don't have the lunch business. We don't have the daytime population. And some of the medical users, are great, and we have great medical systems, but we don't have the daytime population. Restaurants cannot survive only being busy 3 to 4 nights a week. They have to have lunch business, they have to have other active businesses and happy hours, so all of those things go together. Whenever you see restaurants open and close up and down LaGrange Road, it's for a variety of reasons. Sometimes the taxes are too high, the concept's not right, whatever it is, but we need to do our part and make sure that the underlying business is there. Otherwise, I know like myself, go to Oak Brook, Burr Ridge, Tinley, all these other areas that maybe have different offerings that Orland doesn't have. We have cookie cutter shit all up and down LaGrange. So thank God TGI Fridays is closing. Thank God all these other businesses are closing, because that opens the door for new opportunities and new entrepreneurs that have better ideas instead of the same old things that just kind of don't work and that we just settle on. So some of the businesses that are open here, maybe they're not thriving. Nobody likes a bunch of chain. Now BJ's does it right. This is technically a chain, but I mean the offerings they have and the selections and their branding is great, and that's why we try to get businesses in here like BJ's. But what I will say, and I'll criticize this development, I think the way this was planned was shit. I think that all of the parking here is gross. I don't think this was planned well at all.
It's so hard to get here.
So it's hard to get in, it's hard to get out. It's very narrow at certain areas. If you've ever tried to pick up anything from Chipotle or Panera, you're in a drive-through for way too long. So I think it's very inefficient. And I will criticize the Village of Orland Park, their planning department, Ed Lelo, Mayor Pico, whoever the hell had a hand in this. I think it was shit, and I don't think this should ever happen again, because it's not good to have 4 drive-throughs, 4 different outlots taking a Toys R Us.
Everyone say it, and then I'll respond.
Ramzi, as I pulled in, I was talking to him, and I said, who the F don't approve this?
There should be a jewelry store, actually.
Oh, perfect. We'll do that.
It should be a jewelry store, right? Like you can't really get in easy.
Okay, I'm glad you said it
Should
too.
be a main.
And I understand what Ramzi is saying. I understand the concern that every person has about the way this development was designed. But I want to tell you a story. It's called COVID-19, okay? So we had a developer looking to invest and put 5 restaurants on this site. The other option was repurposing a Toys R Us box that was dated. So right now we could be sitting at a retailer in the parking lot going to buy something, or we can go to one of 5 restaurants that opened in the midst of a pandemic, right?
I disagree.
I know you disagree, but it's my turn to rebuttal. So I appreciate the concern, and I understand that under normal circumstances, we may not have made some of the decisions that we were forced into because of a worldwide pandemic. And then we had to accommodate businesses where drive-throughs may be more important than they were previously, and they may be more prevalent, and we didn't know what the future was going to hold. So what we did is what we thought was in the best interests of the village, the residents, the businesses, and the developer to make a maximum return. So we did that.
Wait, wait, let Ed have it for a second. Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can, sir.
Who approved Costco? That parking lot?
Who approved the
That
Costco?
in and out and that and that.
I'm glad you brought that up as well, sir. These are very timely comments, and we did not. So here's the thing. That Costco does fabulously well.
I know. And it's,
It does tremendously well. But that was approved in 2004. In 2004, I was a junior in high school. Can't blame me. And here's the thing, they are working on reconfiguring it to add parking spaces, and we're hoping to to fix that a little bit. So I understand, you're not wrong, you're correct. The reason that it's such a problem that's prevalent in everyone's mind is because the business is so
It's
successful.
wildly successful.
it is.
It's too successful.
We love it. But
Still my
we need to
turn.
fix that.
Just kidding.
Hey,
Thank
what's
you.
going to IHOP?
Hold on.
All right, before we get into just shitting on Ed for a minute, let me rebut his rebuttal. So, the way developers think, like me, it depends on the zoning, right? What you're willing to pay for a piece of land is totally dependent on the zoning. So, if Mr. Developer wanted to buy the Toys R Us and the village said, hey, the only thing you can do is one building on this site for retail, it would be a much different purchase price than if you can do 4 drive-through restaurants. So when the developer paid a lot of money for this. So essentially, because the village would allow 4 of these restaurants jammed in on top of each other with drive-throughs, the developer was able to pay a premium, giving Toys R Us, for some reason, a bunch of money, and allowing him to put these in here, and I understand it was a worldwide pandemic, that's fine, but we also can't be short-sighted. Everything I do with the downtown, I'm told, has to last for 50 years, and you can't just make decisions because, hey, we need to put in that's great, put in 3 of them then, not 4.
I agree.
Then you would have paid $1.5 million for the land instead of $2 million and made a little bit less, but that's okay, because that's what's best for the community.
I agree wholeheartedly, because the difference between what someone thinks their property is worth versus what they can actually market will bear, what will work is different. I understand that. So you have to remember too that Ramsey's correct, I'll say that, because the plan changed based on what the market demand was and who they could attract to the site. So this site plan did not come into us day one looking like this. They actually, in order to get BJ's here, they ended up moving a storm sewer structure that's 72 inches. You can stand up in it. It cost them $1 million to move it 10 feet. So these numbers that people don't necessarily know, but these are things that happen. And these are the reasons that BJ's is here and not a different retailer or a different strip center with different users. So it all has a story. What I want you businesses, sorry, I didn't mean that.
What you mean, you people?
I didn't mean anything by it, I love you all. But remember this next time you see a public hearing notice, and come to the meetings and express your concern. And if we hear it from the business community and the residents, that's why the plan commission's there. That's why the village board makes the decisions that they do. There was not that pushback when that happened. And I know it happened in different iterations, but that's sort of why we are where we are. And I agree that there are valid points being made and on both sides, but here we are, right? So drive slow, please, park in the back.
Ed,
Yes.
what's going at IHOP?
Wild Fork Foods.
Wild Fork Foods is going in the IHOP. Wild Fork Foods.
It was recently demolished. They will be doing their first standalone or their first build out.
So is that like Wild Game?
Yes.
It's wild game meat. I rejected them at Orland Park Crossing. They were going to take the space next to Starbucks. We were not interested.
So the problem here is a little bit like how Orland Park Crossing used to have Panera that brought us a lot of business, and now we have the salon laws, right? Just wondering. 1 point, Ed.
It was very specific.
That was a very specific random question.
Just saying.
Does
Any other
anybody have
questions?
any questions?
What was her question?
Oh, something about Panera.
Oh, how Panera left Orland Park Crossing, and now we have a Salon Suites.
Well,
It was more of a statement.
Hey, where did Panera end up?
In a very overpopulated parking lot.
Thank you.
It sure did. Sure did. Does anyone have any questions
Questions, concerns, comments, or compliments?
or compliments?
Yes, sir, right here.
Well, you admitted that this is a mistake, correct?
No, I did not.
No?
No, I did
It
not.
sounded to me like you admitted this was a mistake.
Well, let me correct you on that. I did not. I explained what I said. Yeah.
Well, mistakes get made, but is there any plans to do anything about this?
Well, I
The
mean,
pandemic's over.
I understand, but there's people that have money invested in this. That what exactly should be changed? If you'd like
So-
to discuss it afterwards, I will. Okay.
And this is, once something's approved, it's approved. So, this would be a I'm speaking as a developer. I wouldn't change a damn thing if I was approved and I already made my money. There's no reason to change it.
For example, if your neighbor had an issue with your house, after you got occupancy, you bought it, you invested your money, and the village said, now you have to change it because your driveway's wrong.
So that would be
upsetting.
infringing on rights, and that's a whole other,
Land use law.
yeah. Okay, so Ed talked about, let me bring it back and I'm still gonna take questions, but, all right, so Ed talked about how you get to the permit process, right? Now you get your permit, now what happens? Okay, you start to build out your space. You figure out, you build it out, right? What the number one thing that people don't do, and this happens, and I have 300 plus tenants, and I probably had over 1,000 tenants in my career that I've seen open and close or thrive or not thrive. They always think that once you put in all this work, you have this great idea, you have a great business, you have great product to sell, you went through all the process with the Village, then you open your doors and people are just gonna walk in. And that doesn't happen. And people don't have a marketing budget. And that's been something that's I've seen time and time again. And these days, marketing is a little bit different. You don't have to just market with expensive paid mailers and those kinds of things, or radio, or TV. Now, there are inexpensive ways now to do radio. Randy Barsala, raise your hand. Okay. But social media, those kind of things. There are different ways to market that are more inexpensive, but you still need a marketing budget. And I think that's been one of the pitfalls that I've seen a lot of businesses have, because theoretically, if you're a small business, you have like 6 months to a year, to figure out if you're gonna make it or not. Over 90% of businesses don't make it after the first year. Think about that. 9 out of 10 businesses that open close within the first year. If you're a franchise, if you open up a Subway restaurant, you flip that. You have a 90% chance of success. But we're talking more on the entrepreneurs. When you have a franchise, you have a franchisor, they have a tried and true method, they have all of these things. What else do they have? Marketing. The brand is already out there. So I can't stress enough that you're spending all this money, you're gonna spend money on an architect, on engineers, on an attorney with the lease, on all of these things, and then you're not gonna spend money on marketing. I've seen that time and time again. You really, really have to make sure there's a decent budget there, because you have a slim chance. If you're not doing the sales or pushing the product within 6 months to a year, odds are you're not gonna make it past that year.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Is there any way the chamber could help market businesses?
Thank you. So what happens when your business is ready to open? Well, you call the Orland Park Area Chamber of Commerce, you schedule a ribbon cutting, you get everyone out there, and
I'll put my coat on and everything.
and we'll put a sport coat on, maybe even a tie. It won't match, but he'll put it on.
Thank you.
And that's a big reason why you do join the chamber. It's supposed to be a collection of businesses that help you. And I've known a lot of businesses that have, just by being in the directory, that people have reached out, even through Google, and that have found them because they're a chamber member. They're in the directory. So obviously the chamber, you shouldn't live and die just by joining the chamber and hope that your business will succeed. But it obviously is one of the stepping stones to really help give you that chance to succeed. And then after that, you're on your own. So I want to hear some stories about how you guys have maybe opened a business or started. I'm just going to pick someone at random. Lindsay, Liberty Point, you just had experience running a space. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I have the best management company in the world, and we're Realty.
Oh, this guy.
It was a little bit of a pain, no shade, and it took me forever to get a sign, but I had to make a phone call, and now I have a sign. So people are great in Orland. But the Village is pretty, the process is pretty smooth, like, no lie. Y'all are all right over there, most of the time.
So I do want to kind of jump on that too, and something that I have been doing a lot since I started with the chamber back in November was starting to go and do site visits. I wanted to go and start meeting our members face to face, because I love attending our membership meetings. I love, attending our events and being there and talking to everybody at our installation back in January, or the own luncheon back, last week already. But sorry.
We're better with Michael.
Sorry. I guess we are. Where was I?
You started doing
Site
site
visits.
visits.
Site visits. Thank you, thank you. But something that we're starting to do is do site visits because a lot of the businesses want to start talking with me personally one-on-one, so then that way I know what I can do to help you and get more involved in the community, or how you can continue to grow your business. And I know, like Erin, I met with you and I learned a lot about the Bridge Teen Center. I met with Charlie from Darwin. She got to give me a tour all around Darwin furniture and mattress. So just something really great that I'm able to do one-on-one with you. So please reach out to me. Like I said, I know it's hard to talk one-on-one at like an event like this or an installation or the own luncheon. So doing a site visit really allows me to sit down and just give my 110% focus on you and what you do for the area. And something new that I even started doing was bringing Ed around with me. And but it's something really great because it's a way for businesses, or I should say chamber members, to meet with me from the chamber, and then of course putting a face to the name and meeting Ed, who can help them and direct them to anyone in the village to help you guys succeed in the town.